Tonight on Reporting Scotland, Police Scotland pay out hundreds of thousands of pounds to a former employee. Gemma McRae, who left the force in 2021, was sexually assaulted and complained about bullying and misogyny at a Murray station.
We still don't have any conclusion or answers to why these things happen and what happened to the perpetrators. It's just money is paid out and then that's it.
Also in tonight's programme, Scotland's longest-running fatal accident inquiry finds that a man's death in custody might have been avoided.
So angry that they let it happen.
Sharon Fenty's son Warren was 20 years old when he died from a drugs overdose at Kitty Brewster Police Station in Aberdeen in 2014. And still to come, the First Minister meets LGBT party activists to offer the full support of the SNP. We're used to midges, but as temperatures rise, mosquitoes have been found across Scotland.
And coming up in the sport, we'll preview tomorrow lunchtime's crucial Old Firm encounter as the Premiership title race intensifies.
Hello, I'm Sally Magnuson. Welcome to Friday's programme. A former police officer who was sexually assaulted and complained about bullying and misogyny at a Murray police station has accepted a payout from Police Scotland of more than £430,000. Gemma McRae said the last 7 years had been devastating and she called for complete reform of the police complaints system. Katie Hunter has more.
I loved the job so much and I put so much hard work into it.
Gemma McRae was a police officer whose career ended after making complaints against other police officers.
Something bad happened and then they tried to cover it up.
7 years on, she's accepted a payout of more than £430,000 from Police Scotland, but says it's been a battle.
It affected me and my family because I've had to give up a lot of time for this. So I've lost precious time with my son to try and fight for justice in the end. So it's been devastating.
Gemma was a police officer in Murray. In 2022, another former officer, Scott Gallop, was convicted of sexually assaulting her. But Gemma's complaints went beyond one officer. Gallop's prosecution was the only one to follow a 15-month investigation by the Police Investigations and Review Commissioner, or PIRC, into a so-called boys' club culture in Murray policing. Gemma wasn't the only female officer making complaints, but she says the system let them down.
The complaints handling process, it needs completely reformed. And the fact that after all of this, we still don't have any conclusion or answers to why these things happen and what happened to the perpetrators. It's just money is paid out and then that's it. So how can we learn?
Gemma's case was heading for an employment tribunal. That will no longer happen.
I am relieved in the sense that finally there's not this constant battle going on behind closed doors, and they have had to pay a price. It speaks for itself that in paying what they have, they did do something wrong.
We asked Police Scotland for an interview, but they declined. In a statement, Deputy Chief Constable Alan Spears said misogyny, sexism and discrimination of any kind was utterly unacceptable and he would meet Gemma and apologise for the way she was treated. He said that since the PIRC investigation, Police Scotland assessed a number of matters and, although conduct proceedings are private, appropriate action was taken to address behaviour that was not in line with our values of integrity, fairness, respect and upholding human rights. Gemma now lives in Norway. She's secured a payout from the police with an apology on the way, but she says it's taken 7 years of sacrifice.
And Katie, this isn't the first time, is it, that the police have had to pay out to a former female officer?
It isn't, Sally. It's almost 2 years to the day since we were talking about the Rona Malone case. She was a former firearms officer. She won her employment tribunal and received almost £1 million payout from Police Scotland. Now, Gemma's case didn't go to tribunal, as we heard there, but no organisation is going to pay a former employee hundreds of thousands of pounds unless something has gone wrong somewhere. And this case comes off the back of various official reports and reviews criticising Police Scotland's handling of complaints, or saying the force could be doing more to challenge bad behaviour. And Gemma is clear she has called for the Scottish Government to take note of her case, of what happened to her. She says the police complaint system needs complete reform. Now, the Scottish Government says it introduced the Police Scotland Bill to the Scottish Parliament last year, and this shows its commitment to improving the police complaints and misconduct system.
Katie, thank you very much for that. The death of a young man in police custody might have been avoided, a fatal accident inquiries ruled. Warren Fenty died from a drugs overdose at a police station in Aberdeen in 2014. Taking nearly 10 years, it's been the longest-running ongoing fatal accident inquiry in Scotland. Warren's mother says she should never have had to wait so long for answers about her son's death. Louise Hosey reports.
Warren Fenty died from a drugs overdose while being held at Aberdeen's Kitty Brewster police station in 2014. He'd been arrested after discharging himself from hospital. Today, the findings of a fatal accident inquiry into his death were finally published. Warren's mum has waited 10 years for answers about what happened to her son due to a series of delays.
It's been a nightmare. It's been hard. It's very hard. Have to roll with the life, because I was asking questions at the beginning, but I was just hitting walls, near getting answers. So I've just take day by day, year by year. That's all I could do.
Sheriff Principal Derek Pyle said custody officers here at Kitty Brewster hadn't carried out cell checks of Mr Fenty in line with standard procedures. He said if this had been done, Mr Fenty may have been readmitted to hospital and his death might have been avoided. The sheriff also found institutional failings by Police Scotland.
So angry that they let it happen. He was only 20. That's all he was 20 years old. He hadn't started it.
Legal experts have raised concerns over the timescale of fatal accident inquiries.
10 years it's really hard to kind of overemphasize how extraordinary this really is, and the amount of time the families had to wait to find out what happened, what the official narration of events is quite troubling in some ways.
The Scottish Courts and Tribunals Service says such delays are unacceptable. Police Scotland said no one was available for interview. It says since Warren's death, improvements have been made to record keeping and communication with medical staff when someone is brought into custody from hospital. Sharon says she wants more answers about exactly how this happened, to make sure it doesn't happen to any other parent. Louise Hosey, reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
This evening, the First Minister is meeting activists from Out for Independence, the SNP's LGBT group. Earlier, Kate Forbes was sworn in as Deputy First Minister. Speaking afterwards, she said she backed John Swinney in his commitment to protect and enhance LGBT rights. I'm joined by our political correspondent, Lindsay Bewes. Lindsay, why was this reassurance felt to be needed?
Well, Sally, John Swinney began the day chairing his first meeting of Cabinet as First Minister before beginning a series of visits aimed at highlighting his commitments to things like tackling NHS waiting lists and economic growth. But questions have persisted both inside and outside the SNP about his appointment of Kate Forbes as Deputy First Minister. There has been a lot of scrutiny of her socially conservative views, including her opposition to gay marriage. Now, LGBT members of Mr Swinney's own party want reassurance from him that this won't mean a watering down of policies when it comes to equal rights. John Swinney has said that he wants to enhance and protect the rights of LGBT people. And today, Kate Forbes said as part of government, she backs that.
The First Minister has been absolutely clear that the Scottish Government intends to promote, to protect and to enhance the rights of every LGBT person in Scotland, and I wholeheartedly endorse that position. When I joined Cabinet, as everybody does, I agreed to abide by collective responsibility. That is what I intend to do, and I stand full square behind the First Minister as he seeks to serve everybody, including those in the LGBT community.
Now, Sally, it has to be said, I've spoken to some members of the SNP today who say they're quite relaxed about this issue because of the level of trust they have in John Swinney. However, others have told me they are uncomfortable about Kate Forbes' appointment, to the point they would find it difficult to go out and knock doors for the party at the moment because they might have to defend her on the doorsteps. That is not ideal for the SNP in a general election year. John Swinney will be hoping that her comments today and his comments have done enough to reassure the party.
Lindsay, thank you very much. Lindsay Buse there in Holyrood. A case of BSE, commonly known as mad cow disease, has been identified on a farm in Ayrshire. The Scottish Government said the case was identified through routine surveillance and precautionary movement restrictions had been put in place. The animal did not enter the human food chain, and Food Standards Scotland said there was no risk to human health. Plans to rebuild the fire-damaged Mackintosh School of Art in Glasgow have been further delayed by a dispute with insurers. The school confirmed today that they're in the process of arbitration with insurers over their claim for the most recent of the two fires. Let's find out more from our arts correspondent, Pauline McLean. Pauline, 10 years now since the first fire in that beautiful building. Talk us through what's been happening since.
Sally, it's hard to believe, isn't it, that it's 10 years exactly this month since the first fire, which completely destroyed the Mackintosh Library, the world-famous library, and also part of the wing behind us here. And then there was a massive campaign to raise the funds in order to restore the building, and they were just at the tail end of that process. They'd had people like Brad Pitt and Peter Capaldi, who'd been a student here, contributing to that, and just at the end of that process was when the second fire occurred, and that one was even more devastating, and all that's left of the building really now is the shell of it that you can see behind its protective covering now.
So this dispute with the insurers, what's that likely to mean?
Well, it's going to be a delay, whatever happens. I think they haven't even appointed a design team yet. That process had already stalled. That stalled last year. They're hopeful a new appointment can be made this summer and they can come up with an updated business plan, because the longer it's delayed, the more issues there are with things like the cost of living, construction costs. All of these things have to be factored in. They are quite confident that they will get the insurance money and it will allow them to go about that faithful reinstatement that they say is still part of it. They want that original Art Nouveau building back on that very, very spot, a work of art and a working art school, but that's going to make it an even slower process. It's been, as you said, 10 years since that first fire, 6 since the second, and as you can see here, it's still just a shadow of the building it once was.
Pauline McLean in Glasgow, thank you very much. Now, the first National Day of Remembrance for people who were lost at sea while working in the fishing industry will be held on Sunday. The main service will be in Eyemouth, where one of the worst fishing disasters took place more than 140 years ago. There are striking memorials like this one along the Berwickshire coastline for the 189 men who died that night in a freak storm. Betty Gray's husband, Peter, died in a fishing accident 3 years ago. She's been telling us what the memorial service will mean to her.
Betty Gray, and I was married to Peter Gray for over 40 years, and he was a fisherman at Cove. We met at a local dance, as you did back in the day. We got married in 1978. He was a fisherman for 46 years from Cove. He was 5th generation in his family to fish from there. He was a creel fisherman, and he would go away at silly o'clock in the morning and be back in usually by lunchtime, depending on the tides. He enjoyed working on his own. He enjoyed his life. It was a good life. Depending on the tides, I would sometimes hear him go by and you had this put, 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 put sound of the engine going by. I could distinguish his engine on a calm day. You could hear it from the windows. He went off on the 2nd of May, early in the morning. He actually woke me up that morning to tell me he might be late in. It'd been rough weather the week before. He needed to move his creels out because there was easterly winds coming the next week. And he needed to move them out into deeper water to keep them safe. So that's what he was going to work and do all day. And it turned out he'd gotten caught in a bitey rope. There'd been a tangle in the creels and he'd went to sort it out. And something must have moved. He went flying into something, got knocked out unconscious into the water. And the cold water shock gave him a heart attack. He had his life jacket on, as he always did. So there was a search party went out later on in the afternoon looking for him, and he was miles away. He was almost up at Dunbar. And the search and rescue helicopter found him. And they found him because he had his life jacket on. So I am lucky. I got him back and I've buried him. So many people don't get them back. I think it'll be good for the fishing community to be able to honour the men that's been lost, because there's been so many. It means that I'm going to be with people who are going through the same as me. Just acknowledging that these men were here and that they worked hard and they lost their lives doing a hard job. And it'll make people aware of what the price of fish is.
Betty Gray. Now, think of mosquitoes and it might take you somewhere warm and tropical, but actually they're native to Scotland too. Yet, very little's known about them. Now there's growing concern that as the climate changes, mosquitoes could be responsible for spreading diseases here. Scientists at Glasgow University are desperate to learn more, and they've formally identified 16 varieties of the insect. Our environment correspondent Kevin Keane reports.
This is not a midge. It's one of the most common varieties of mosquito, now identified for the first time all over Scotland. Mosquitoes are feared across the world as carriers of deadly diseases like dengue and malaria. While that's not an immediate concern here, scientists feel we need to better understand the risks.
We do believe that with warming temperatures, we're going to see larger numbers of mosquitoes, potentially different species, including some that might be migrating from other areas where they can transmit diseases, and they may be active for longer periods of the season, and this does pose a risk.
Scientists are now breeding mosquitoes in the lab here at Glasgow University's Centre for Virus Research. So far, only 16 species have been found in Scotland from around 4,000 across the world. All of these mosquitoes originate from just 200 or 300 that were collected as larvae from a garden in Bearsden last year. And in just 9 months, they've multiplied to now around 20,000 of them, all of which can be studied. Researchers have even been sacrificing their own skins to feed the insects. They hung traps like this to count them at 24 locations across the country. The insects are lured to them by the smell of carbon dioxide.
So we have discovered mosquitoes throughout the country. So that includes from the south to here in Glasgow, with the most mosquitoes we've caught being further north.
Public health experts insist there's no immediate risk, but that situation needs to be closely monitored.
They've been gradually moving across Europe. The cases have been identified of the mosquito in France. So it doesn't take a leap of imagination to see that very soon they could be detected in England and in Scotland.
Experts say it's the warmer winters rather than the summers which allow the mosquitoes to survive. Public Health Scotland says there now needs to be more government-backed research to better understand the risks. Kevin Keane reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
Lewis and I are standing here scratching.
So it does make you itch.
Right, Old Firm weekend.
Massive weekend, Si. I know I often say it's a big weekend, this one in particular. Thanks very much. Yes, hello there. Well, it's been described as the biggest Old Firm game in over a decade. Tomorrow, Celtic host Rangers, knowing that if they win, the title is pretty much theirs. For Rangers, the incentive is obvious: avoid defeat and keep their championship dreams alive. Here's our sports news correspondent, Chris McLaughlin.
Some title run-ins are seared into the memory. When a season can't separate, it's final day delight or despair. In Scotland, it's been a while though. What happens here tomorrow could determine whether or not we get that again. For the first time in a long time, it's close, very close. With 3 games to go, just 3 points is the difference. A win for Celtic and they're all but there. A win for Rangers and it's all square, with Celtic ahead on goal difference.
Can he get a goal shooting opportunity? Yes, he can!
This was the last time they met. 3-3 in the end. A thrilling game for a thrilling season.
Those are the games when you are a small boy that you want to play. If you see those things on television or in the stadium, you want to be on that pitch. So those are the days or the weeks that as a manager you envy the players.
Well, I think with only 3 games to go, then of course it's going to be significant. So, but for us it's about making the performance that we want, and if we can do that, we know it gives us a great chance to get the result.
The last game when we played you at Ibrox, a draw would have been okay, but a win, no, we need to go to Celtic Park and win.
Just like Celtic at Ibrox last time, Rangers must play this one with no away fans allowed. The one thing that unites supporters, though, is the view that there's no bigger derby in the world.
I don't think there's any argument about it, and I think people that don't say it is haven't experienced it and haven't been in the city and know what it's like, and yeah, it's got to be this one, absolutely.
100%. If you say any other answer, you're lying to yourself. There's a few derbies around the world that are massive, to be fair, right? But it's different here. It's not just about football. It's like it can ruin your whole week. It can also make your whole week as well. It's the Old Firm. It's number 1.
Agree or disagree, tomorrow's feels particularly significant.
The last one was an absolute cracker, particularly at the end. But you get feeling this could be the same all the way through, because Rangers need to win it and Celtic want to win it.
They say the biggest Old Firm game is the next one. This one in particular, though, could be huge. Chris McLaughlin, reporting Scotland.
St Johnstone manager Craig Levein says the message to his players remains the same as it has all season ahead of a crucial match against Livingston tomorrow. The Saints lost last time out to Aberdeen and it leaves them in the playoff spot in 11th. They face a Livingston side who are already relegated. Levein admits his team are in a position they've become used to this season, but remains optimistic.
We've been down at the sort of foot of the table for most of the season. In fact, probably all season just about. So it's just been pretty much the same message. We just need to dig in and work really hard and get ourselves in a position where we can stay in this league. It's as simple as that. We're in a position where our fate is in our own hands. If you'd asked me a couple of months ago that I'd like to be in that position, I would have said yes.
Now, it's a busy play-off weekend across the divisions in Scotland, but tonight it's the second leg between Partick Thistle and Airdrieonians, who are hoping to keep their Premiership dreams alive after a thriller on Tuesday night. Jonathan Sutherland is at Firhill Stadium.
The good news is that second legs are usually even better than first legs. The bad news? Well, there is no bad news. The sun is shining and this tie is perfectly poised at 2-2. A Partick Thistle slight favourites. They've only lost one of their last 16 matches against Airdrieonians. But of course, on Tuesday night, it was 2-2, and a real sense that anything could happen. A hugely entertaining game expected this evening. Last season in the playoffs, they averaged more than 4 goals per match. Let's hope for entertainment tonight. 7:30 on the BBC Scotland channel.
Andy Murray's brought forward his comeback from an ankle injury and will play at an ATP Challenger event in Bordeaux next week. The 36-year-old, who's expected to retire this season, has been out since late March after rupturing ankle ligaments at the Miami Open. Murray intends to play at the French Open, which starts later this month, for what is likely to be his final game at that Grand Slam event.
He never gives up, does he?
How often do we say that, Sally? It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
Before I go, I must mention the golf as well. Robert McIntyre going well in the PGA Tour's Myrtle Beach Classic. He's got a 3-shot lead on 11 under.
Oh, good.
Good
well
news.
done. Thanks very much,
Thanks,
Lewis.
Sally.
Coming up on the BBC Scotland channel at 7 o'clock, the actor Brian Cox talks about what it means to be nominated for a BAFTA for his performance in the smash hit drama Succession.
I mean, I've won so many awards and connected with the show. Golden Globe and such like, but it would be great to have win something on one's home turf, as it were. You know, that's That would be the nice thing about it. But who knows? I mean, I treat these things with a dash of salt.
And that's coming up in just a few minutes' time at 7 o'clock. We're going to Judith with the weather now. And I've been completely drawn to that picture of Isla.
Lovely, isn't it?
Oh, it'd be wonderful to go there right now.
And it looks so different in the sunshine, doesn't it? Possibly, I mean, it's always gorgeous, but really inviting there. Beautiful, and more of that to come tomorrow, Sally, I have to say. And not only was it fair in the west, it was fair in the east as well. This was a view from St Andrews right across the North Sea. You can see forever. And it's all down to this area of high pressure that's brought the dry weather, the warmth as well. It starts to move ever so slightly eastwards, allowing weather fronts to start making inroads come Sunday and into next week. This low pressure system coming away Monday and Tuesday. But let's enjoy the sunshine while we can. Lots of it to come as we head through this evening, and overnight it'll be dry and clear. Maybe the odd mist patch forming, but that's about it. And temperatures falling to around about the 10 Celsius mark, so it will be mild. But there's a pretty strong case for the aurora tonight, signal I should say, so bear that in mind once darkness falls, especially around the latter part of the night. So into tomorrow, a lovely start to the day, some glorious sunshine and a mild one too. Any mist or fog very quickly clearing away. Now we'll start to see a wee bit of fair weather cloud bubbling up, pushing through 1 or 2 showers as we head through into the afternoon. I think you'd be very unlucky if you did catch one. For the Northern Isles tomorrow, we'll plenty of dry, sunny weather, and those temperatures reaching 17 Celsius for Shetland, 18 for Orkney. Across eastern Scotland, lots of glorious sunshine. Inland, a bit of cloud bubbling up, but we'll still see 22, 23 Celsius. A really fine day to come. And any showers we see will pass by quickly, and they'll be mainly focused over the higher ground. The best of the afternoon sunshine for the west coast, 23, 24 degrees. Expected up towards the northwest Highlands as well. 18 for the Western Isles. Very pleasant indeed with light southerly breezes. So a cracking day to head out to the hills tomorrow. Some really fine walking conditions, but a couple of things to bear in mind. 1 or 2 afternoon showers might break out, but it won't hamper visibility. The clouds well above the tops, so you'll be able to see forever. High UV though, and that strong sunshine, so strong sunburn risk. Lather on that sun cream, and of course with the heat comes dehydration as well. So take plenty of water, and a fresh southerly breeze at the top, occasionally strong up towards the northwest ranges and the Cuillins as well. So 1 or 2 showers continue to drift northwards tomorrow afternoon and into the evening, but generally it's a lot of dry weather, a lot of sunshine. In fact, the cloud melts away, leaving plenty of dry weather overnight with some clear spells. But as the winds back into the southeast, they'll start pushing some higher from the northeast, from the North Sea, I should say, across eastern Scotland. But that aside, a dry, sunny start to Sunday, but then we'll start to see showers developing, mainly focused across the west, running into central Scotland as well. The Har becoming confined to the east coast. The best of the sunshine in the east. Still some warmth as well, 20, 22 Celsius at best. That's your forecast.
I do like that lovely orange map for tomorrow.
Oh, so do I. It's a treat.
Perfect. Thanks very much indeed. Ben Phillip will be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. But until then, from everyone in the team, do enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.